Wondrous ones on this full moon eclipse portal, tucked very close to Halloween, Samhain, which is such a potent time of year for us in general. And the fact that we are experiencing this full moon lunar eclipse right nestled to this portal where the veils are thin between the realms and the ancestors are with us in a much more poignant and intimate way is very profound. And I'm going to dive right into, of course, just talking a little bit about what this portal means for what's going on in the world, particularly this conflict that's conflagrating in the Middle East once again. And I want to send out a word of caution to everyone because we now live in an era where we are mostly getting our news from social media. And I have been seeing expositions of fake videos on both sides of this conflict. And I imagine that there's lots of this kind of disinformation out. I have also seen, not just now, but over the years, bots, these bot accounts that are usually just thousands of workers that have been hired for Facebook, Meta, Instagram. And their job is literally just to create these fake accounts and to write inflammatory rhetoric and be trolls. And these are also very pervasive. And we have to remember that social media has been found out through investigations, particularly in America, to be in direct collusion with the governments and intelligence agencies. In fact, my research has shown that Facebook itself may have come from DARPA, from US intelligence, and this whole idea that it was created by this innocuous Mark Zuckerberg character, there's definitely some suspicion to that. It's very strange that just before Facebook was launched, the American intelligence agencies were about to launch their own version of it and then killed the project. And then very soon after, Facebook showed up. Very suspicious. But I want, people to be aware that the full moon energies are going to be really intense tonight. I don't think it's any joke that as we enter into this portal, we're seeing some of the worst bombing in Gaza in retribution for, of course, the terrible attacks by Hamas. And we're seeing a continued ramping up of this duality. And you're seeing with some of the leaders and how they're speaking on either sides, particularly I think of Netanyahu's speech the other day where he talked about how him, Israel, and the Jewish people were on the side of light, and the others, Hamas and the terrorists, were these dark infidels. And it's that type of rhetoric that is insane and is the problem with a lot of these religious programs that have been running for thousands of years, catching us in this good and evil duality program that is inherently against truth. It has no place in the realm of universal truth where this kind of duality is collapsed, of course, in the far more complex, beautiful, yet trying common ground of good and evil being really wrapped in the oneness of it all, the quantum field. And this is, of course, the mystical reality that all the great sages have tried to illuminate and tried to educate humanity about. How, Rumi talks about, being in a field beyond right and wrong. I will meet you there. This is where the deeper sense of ourself, the ultimate self, the soul self, is really rooted. And our egoistic mind that has been really severed from this deeper spiritual sense of ourselves and our reality, which is more universal truth reality, we have been uprooted and taken into the analytical mind that really just bounces back and forth from one side to the other and has no sense of how to create synthesis. And this is a problem of consciousness. egoic consciousness itself having domain and dominion over the planet. And this is an agenda that has been utilized by nefarious entities. I just put up a new talk on my YouTube channel about this, about the ancient concept of what are known as the archons. And I'm going to keep talking about this stuff, even though I may lose followers, even though people might think it's crazy. But there's evidence of this in the ancient canons of our mystical cultures. This is not just some sci-fi crackpot conspiracy theory that humanity is under threat by entities that are non-human. In the religious programs themselves, which have half-truths, because a lot of religions were co-opting more of the ancient wisdom of ages knowledge of the pagan mystery schools, which were definitely closer to the truth because they were based on Gnosticism, which was self-realization, all of us having access to divine intelligence, which is our birthright, which is what happens when we are present, which happens when we are harnessing the power of now, which you may have noticed if you practice meditation, that you plug into all of a sudden a realm where spontaneous insights of great genius can come through and flow through. And that mind is our essence. That is our essential soul mind. And we need to be in touch with that more and more and more as we are pulled into the fray of these nonsensical wars that are based on the egoic consciousness that wants things to be in this very comfortable kind of secure idea of they're the good guys, we're the good guys, and they're the bad guys. And we know that just in the fogs of war, as they call it, there are no good and bad guys. Everyone becomes murderous, does inhumane things, and it creates vicious cycles of vengeance and bloodlust for eons because of all the ancestral karma that happens. And right now they're dropping a gigantic bomb on our earth of this dualistic thinking, and people are getting really sucked into it. And of course it's very challenging because it can appear that one side is completely bullying the other, and that may be the case in one scenario of reality. But the deeper occasion here is, how do we end these conflicts? And that has nothing to do with eye for an eye mentality. It's an initiative of peace and forgiveness, and that will take monumental work of human beings, which we all should be just doing in our own lives. That's the prayer we can make, looking where are we stuck in dualistic consciousness and in conflict in our own macrocosmic lives, and trying to be peacemakers. And those types of emanations will affect all of our reality. And it's a harrowing situation because I don't know what to do. There's obviously innocent civilians being murdered every day. It's horrifying, and it's horrible that the leaders have gripped so much power and they're just brazenly sacrificing human beings to create this loosh, as they say, this kind of vampiric energy that these entities feed off of. And then, of course, we all get swirled into the fear and start to lose faith in peace, in the power of forgiveness and love. And we can't. We have to somehow, in some way, even though it seems like a stupid spiritual bypass, we have to somehow hold this line that peace and love has other realms of action ability that need to be activated somehow. I'm heartened to see there's lots of protests that are happening all over the world where Jews and Muslims are uniting in alliance to denounce the inhumanity of what is happening in Gaza. And that's an example of people transcending the divides to come together around a peace movement. So that's a beautiful node. And it should likewise be happening with the terrorist attacks by Hamas on Israel. And I'm sure there are those alliances happening to denounce that as well. We have to mutually come together and denounce these acts that are causing so much suffering and trying to incite us into more and more war, where more and more innocent people are going to perish and die. So as we enter into this full moon where so much lunacy with the lunar energies are going to be pumping, I really, really encourage you to be in prayers of peace, be in meditation, and envision the Middle East and all of the earth being surrounded by beautiful angels, beautiful spiritual animals like the white lions who are protecting us, and really envision this world of great peace. The indigenous peoples of native of North America, of Turtle Island, have been prophesying for many years in the era of great peace. And my only hope in all this harrowing situation is that perhaps we need to go through another experience, this horror, to finally say enough is enough, and we cannot continue in this insane way. So because while social media, as I mentioned at the beginning of this talk, a lot of misinformation, there's a lot of fake videos, there's a lot of bots and troll accounts out there who are jumping onto people's posts and commenting very insightful rhetoric to try and get people to fight against each other. We have to bear in mind, and this is something that the religions try and take a lot of credit for, but if you go much further back in the Gnostic mystery schools, for example, they rendered that humanity was under threat from an adversary, and they were very clear, the Gnostics, that this was not a battle between good and evil. They more or less called it a spectrum of mental health crisis, really, and that these archons, these demonic entities that were intrapsychic, that are infesting us on the level of the mind, and how this war on consciousness works is they implant false ideas into our belief systems because they're shapeshifters. And when these thoughts come in, we think they are our own. And if we are attached to our self-identity, to our egoic identity, we don't have a very powerful way to self-defend against these on a psychic level. But when we are in touch with meditation and the soul, which has a direct link to this more cosmic mind, then we can have discernment, because then truth is something that is felt. You feel it. And that's why it's so important to use meditation as a means of also psychic self-defense, which is what the Gnostics were on about a lot. But the Gnostics really rendered this adversary in our midst. And one of the challenges in our modern world, as the old adage goes, the greatest trick the devil has ever played is to convince us that they don't exist. And that is the world that we live in. Hence why when these conflicts start in the Middle East, everyone starts pointing fingers at each other, whereas we all should be looking into the psychic space and pointing fingers beyond into the invisible worlds of spirit, for that is where we are being challenged. And I think more and more people are getting that. If you want to learn more about that, go over to my YouTube channel, Darren Austin Hall, and you can find, I posted it on the top of my page, a very long talk that I gave on the archons based on the Nag Hammadi library, this ancient wisdom, so that you can really get a sense of this adversary that we're dealing with and not fall into the inflaming of conflict, which is the goal, to keep us divided, right? When we come together in unity, we are an unstoppable force, and we haven't seen a lot of that unity in thousands of years, but when it does come together, it's very, very profound what happens, and the powers of love are amplified, and we see the glory of the human soul and our divine reality when the human heart is able to shine that light of love, and our innate goodness radiates outward into the world. So just some thoughts to hold in your hearts. And as I end this talk, if you just want to take a moment to just close your eyes, envision your heart center in the center of your chest filled with light, and imagine that that light is an indomitable force of infinite lovingness, and that it is emanating waves of love out into the world, what the Buddhists call the gift waves. The Buddhists believe that the enlightened ones, when they go into the spirit realms, they attain nirvana and they stay in meditation for all eternity, emanating gift waves of energy and wisdom from their hearts, from their being. And we can do that in this reality. So seeing that beautiful love shining out from your heart, pouring over the Middle East, pouring over the hearts of all people all over the world. See all of our hearts coming together in this unity of light, love, wisdom, and peace, reaching and opening the hearts of others to this brilliance that is innate to all of us. And holding this vision of a world of great peace, imagining it, what would it look like? What would it feel like? Spend time creating those beautiful thought forms. So thank you for being here with me on this impromptu message on the full moon eclipse. May peace reign, may love reign all over the earth. May the era of great peace begin through the harrowing mercy of this sacrifice. May we awaken and never allow these kinds of conflicts and wars to ever happen again on this planet. It is possible. It is not an insane idea. What is insane is this ceaseless samsara war. So shine that light of love from your heart. Believe in the world of great peace. It is here. It is already in existence in our hearts. We just now have to bring it into our reality.